This morning's devotional is a little bit different because you're in for a treat. This morning's devotional is actually a drama. So we'll be visited by a young lady whose real name is Lindsey Link. And Lindsey's position here with the ministry is in what we call the advancement department. That's where we thank our donors for being part of the ministry. And she's very active, very much involved in the advancement department, but she's also an actress and has some really neat God-given abilities. And so Lindsey comes to us this morning taking on the part, she's going to act as if she's Mrs. Noah. This should be good because we don't know a lot about Mrs. Noah. So, Lindsey Link.
They called me Mrs. Noah, wife of the only God-fearing man in the world. Noah was the complete opposite of them all, a devout follower of God. Where once I had lived in this world, terrified if my father would come home reeling drunk to beat me, or if my mother would have other men over in his absence, or if my big brothers and their friends would. But in Noah, I found a protector whose righteous example led me only closer to the Creator God we both so dearly loved. Gazing up at the deep blue sky above us, Noah would say, "Look at that sky. Just like you cannot see the end of it, so my love for you will never end. That's a promise. And God's love for us is even greater than that." Then, one day, the word of the Lord came to Noah. Noah said it was loud, booming like thunder. "The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark." Immediately, no questions asked, Noah began construction of the ark, following the precise measurements God had specified. Year after year, I would watch him, as covered in as much grime as the hired helpers beside him, Noah hammered peg after peg into plank after plank. There were times I wanted to go up to him. I wanted to tell him, "Give this up, Noah. There's never been a global flood. How can there possibly be one now? What might the town be thinking? What might they say about you? About us?" But Noah's faithfulness and obedience to God never waned, despite the indifference or derision of even his own wife. Then finally, God pried open my eyes to see the sin of my disbelief and my pride in wanting the world's approval rather than God's. That day, I took my rightful place at the ark work site, laboring far into the night, desperate to make amends with my husband. Bending low over one of the beams, I suddenly felt his warm hand on my shoulder. My precious wife, don't you know you need never try to earn my love? Look at the stars. Just like you cannot possibly count them, so my love for you is limitless. That's a promise. And God's love for us is more vast than the stars. So we respond in humble gratitude and immediate obedience, whether we ever understand. Faith. Years later, the ark was complete, and in one instant, our faith became sight. Come into the ark, you and all your household, for I have seen that you are righteous before me in this generation. For behold, after 7 more days, I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made. Only 7 more days until the flood? It was here. Frantically, we began loading the ark as I tried to keep from panicking. Do we have enough food? What if our supplies ran out? How long will we have to live on the ark? And then, the ground beneath my feet began to vibrate. The animals were coming up the ramp. Male and female, 2 of each kind, and 7 of each clean kind and foul. Hundreds upon hundreds. It was the most extraordinary sight I had ever seen. Birds beating the air with their feathers. Dinosaurs of all shapes and sizes. Slithery, slimy reptiles that I tried to sweep off the ramp until Noah stopped me. And with that magnificent parade, Noah, our 3 sons and their wives, and I, the only people who believed God, entered the door of the ark. And the Lord shut us in. Cages were bolted, torches lit. We waited. And then the fountains of the great deep burst open. The windows of heaven sprang apart, and rain began to pelt the earth like daggers. Pulsing thunder, blazing lightning, screeching wind that ripped sycamores apart like dried twigs. Booming, crashing, thundering, flashing, screaming, shaking, pounding, death, death, death. Our family, the only ones spared from the judgment outside the ark, wept. It was 40 days and nights of incessant rain, and then a voyage through a world of water, the only people alive on the face of the earth. And thus was our life for month after month after month. But God remembered Noah, and the fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters receded continually from the earth. At last, when God said it was time, we, along with every creature with us on the ark, went out. It's different, Noah. Such tall mountains. The buildings. The people are gone. The destruction was complete. And it should have been ours. It should have been ours. Right there, Noah built an altar and sacrificed in an act of overwhelmed worship to the Almighty, merciful God. Then the Lord spoke again. And as for me, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your future generations, and with every living thing that is with you. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. This is the sign of the covenant. Look, Noah, stretching like a banner from one end of the sky to the other, brighter than any star in the heavens, a rainbow. Noah turned to me, looked deep into my eyes, and said, "Now that is a promise." The wicked world, drunken with idolatrous self, had been judged and annihilated, and yet God, in his mercy, spared us 8 souls. My heart was full. God is God. There is no other, and he must be glorified. We must never forget what God had done. Oh, Noah, Japheth, Shem, everyone, we must never forget what has happened here. The ark was the meeting point between God's holy wrath and his divine mercy. God will punish sin, and salvation is found only in him. We must never forget, must boldly proclaim the truth. As long as we have life within our bodies, we have the responsibility. This ark is our memorial, our legacy of faith, to teach our children and their children and their children long after we are gone from this earth, so that all future generations will look at the ark and give the glory due our Creator, Sustainer, Savior. Oh Lord, let us never forget what the ark stands for. Your judgment and your mercy. God used the wooden ark to save 8 souls from a worldwide judgment. And he has used the wooden cross, the death and resurrection of Jesus, to provide salvation from the eternal judgment to come. Just like the only way for Noah and his family to be saved from the global flood was to walk by faith through the one door of the ark, so The only way for anyone to be saved from God's coming judgment is to walk by faith through the one door to God, Jesus Christ. That is the message of Ark Encounter. You see it in the world around us. Sin is celebrated. God is being stricken from every part of our society. It's time to take a stand in a way the world cannot ignore. Our lives are but a vapor. Let's invest them in something that matters. Help us build this ark that will boldly proclaim the way to God long after our lives on this earth have been snuffed out. Help us build this legacy. Thank you.